Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, she represents the 3rd District of Connecticut and a ranking member of the Appropriations Committee, fierce advocate for the strong middle class. It's such an honor, such a pleasure to have you here with us, Congresswoman DeLauro. Tell us, first of all, I want to get into the child tax credit, the thing that you're working on so hard, but first off, I'm just curious your thoughts on the convention. What were the high points for you over the last couple of days?
Well, first of all, I think we haven't seen this kind of energy in some time, maybe back to 2008 with Barack Obama. But that's been, and when you think about it, it's really been a month, since the transition was made, and the vice president is now our presidential candidate and doing an extraordinary job of unifying the party.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think that there were lots of skeptics out there that it couldn't happen, but she has done that. She is raising the money that's needed to move forward, and she's crisscrossing the country to bring out what you talked about. And I am a fierce advocate for the middle class, but what we see is that she is a fierce advocate for the middle class, for working families, and I think for the first time in a long time that working families and middle class families can see that they have a ticket, that they have candidates for president and vice president who understand their way of life, who walk in their shoes, understand that they live paycheck to paycheck, and how difficult it has been with the high cost of health care, housing, child care, food costs, etc. And they haven't seen their wages rise in decades. Yeah. And I think that is the message coming out of here. And that we're going to be there, we're going to stand with you, we are for you, we're going to use our power to make a difference in these areas.
And you look back at the last handful of elections, presidential elections, and what you see over and over again is basically people who grew up as middle-class folks, Bill and Hillary Clinton, going up against a billionaire or a multimillionaire, the very, very wealthy Bush dynasty, Al Gore going up against the Bush dynasty. Now we've got both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, both, children of the middle class, going up against a billionaire and a multimillionaire who's the basically toady of a billionaire. I mean, it's the contrast is extraordinary.
The contrast really is extraordinary. And, look, in purely policy terms, you look at what the vice president has said: child tax credit, increase in minimum wage, looking at legislation to ban price gouging in the food industry, which is what is happening, prevent the mergers between these food industry people, expanding the child tax credit, dealing with the $6,000 a year, which includes, opportunities for newborns. You can go on with housing, to look at creating housing, home ownership, contrast that. And the contrast has to be, while Donald Trump disassociates himself from Project 2025, he has been key to that effort. Yeah. Think about where they want to go. Yeah. They want to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, cut Social Security and Medicare, nationwide abortion ban, take federal money out of public education in this country, eliminate overtime. I can go on and on and on, but that's right. That is the contrast of giving people, and what government is about. What's government about? Why do we serve here? Yeah. It is because it needs to work for people. I learned that from my parents. They didn't write legislation, but they served on the city council in New Haven, Connecticut, and, how do you help people manage the system and get through it and be able to get what it is that they need for themselves to survive, for their families to survive?
Well, and I think it's safe to say FDR literally created the modern middle class in America. We never had more than 10% of Americans in the middle class before the 1940s. Right. And now it's about half.
Yeah. And labor. I just will say that labor unions create the middle class. Yeah. And when I think about FDR, and many, many months ago, when the first child tax credit was part of the American Rescue Plan, all of the all of the staffs, all of the chairs of the committees, we went in to see the president and the vice president, and they were sitting under the portrait of Franklin Roosevelt. And I said that when it got to my term, I talked about appropriations, but I said, this portrait, Franklin Roosevelt lifted 90% of seniors out of poverty in this country.
True.
I said, with the stroke of a pen,
yeah,
we can lift our kids out of poverty in this country, provide the biggest middle-income tax break that people have seen in a generation, and lift half our kids out of poverty.
Well, then let's talk about that. When the child tax credit, the $6,000 child tax credit, was incorporated into the American Rescue Plan in 2021, am I remembering
2021.
correctly?
It wasn't the six. It was
a little less than.
It was, yeah. If you do add it up, though, if you index it, it's like 5,999, which is why the vice president picked that up, and let's say $6,000.
But that cut child poverty in America in half.
In half.
And then the Republicans killed it.
That's right. That's right.
And
for a year. And
why on God's green earth would the Republican Party say, "Oh yeah, it's fine with us that what is it? 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5 children in America live in poverty." I don't recall the number. I'm sorry, but some massive. Now, I mean, millions and millions and millions of children
kids.
living in poverty.
Right.
Why? What possibly? I mean, these are people, your colleagues. You know these people. What do they say?
I listened to them. They said that it's just such a cynical view of people in this country. They said they were going to buy drugs. They said that they were not going to go to work, that they would dog it, that they would stay home. Imagine, you've got people today holding 2 or 3 jobs because of how difficult financially it is for them. And all the data shows, and we have it, it just stares you in the face. What do they use the child tax credit for? To be able to get child care in order to go to work. Yeah. So they do that. To afford food to put on the table. To be able to pay a rent or a mortgage payment. To get school supplies, for kids. And with the price of groceries, they could go and buy groceries for their family. So they used it in the very, very best way. And for me, I've seen a lot of federal programs, as you have. I don't believe there's a federal program that has worked and carried out its mission in the way that the child tax credit has.
We're talking with Representative Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut, and such an honor and a pleasure to have you here with us. I find it bizarre that Republicans say, as you just said, if you give money to poor people, they're going to use it for drugs, or they're going to use it for going to Disneyland or something. But then they turn around and say, well, let's give money to billionaires.
Oh.
Let's,
right, because they can buy stock options.
Right, let's hand $1 trillion to the billionaires. That's going to what? Incentivize them or something?
And what we found out was the 2017 tax cuts, the richest 1/10 of 1% and the biggest corporations, benefited from
more
that.
than 80% of it.
That's
thing.
right. Yeah. And we got 55 corporations today who pay 0 tax.
And yet they're massively profitable.
You got that right, yes. Yeah. So that's it. And we need to go after that money, and there's another 39, by the way, that don't pay what they owe. So we need to collect that money, and we need to use it in a way that benefits all, I'm going to say all, Americans. Yeah. And that's what Barack Obama was talked about last night, was that we have to really be inclusive and reach people who have been sold a bill of goods. Yeah.
We've been talking about economic issues.
Right.
I'm curious your thoughts on the kind of elephant in the room, as it were, particularly with regard to taking on the Republican Party, which is abortion and birth control. Now we've got in 3 different states, we've got Republicans proposing legislation to restrict access to birth control for women. Right. How is that playing, and what role do you think it's going to play?
I think it's going to play a very big role, and I think you've said it accurately. I think the economic issues, the cost of living issues, are the top issues that people care the most about. That really is. And then I think the abortion issue, because ultimately what they want is a national ban on abortion. Yeah. So they're coming at it in various ways. It was the overturning of Roe, but they didn't stop there. And this is a long-term plan that they've had.
Oh, yeah.
And then try to, restrict contraception is, they want to shut down the avenues. And IVF, imagine. Yeah. IVF. So they want to just shut down all the avenues where women can get access to the health care that they need. So it tells you something about their view of women,
Yeah.
their trust in women, their respect for the choices that women make.
Yeah, or lack of respect.
And that's what we need to trust women to make choices for themselves and for their families. Republicans don't.
Yeah, and tragically,
Right.
it's so sad. Representative DeLauro, thank you so
My
much
pleasure.
for
It's
dropping
a
by.
pleasure to be with you.
Honor and a pleasure to
Take
meet
care.
you
Thank
in
you.
person. Thank
Take
you so
care.
much. Yeah,
Okay.
and anytime you'd like to come on the program, the door is open.
Thank you.
Thank you.